A very warm welcome back to the channel, and thank you very much for watching. I felt it absolutely necessary to do a video on this topic because of this can't pay, won't pay movement, which has seen many thousands of people sign on to the idea that they are going to cancel their direct debit and just stop paying their energy bills because of the rising fuel and energy prices. I have to say at the outset that I would suggest people do not do this, and for the simple reason that it's going to cause you, and is much more likely to cause you, problems than it is going to help resolve the situation. Because even if thousands of people do sign on to this and cancel their direct debit and causes significant disruption to the energy companies, it is ultimately only going to end, in my view, one way, and that is to negatively impact upon you, the person that does that and cancels the direct debit, if indeed you go ahead and do that. Because ultimately there is one finality to this, and that is that either there's going to be action to disconnect your energy, which is quite a rare thing to do, but it does happen if you get bills to such a degree that you just can't pay them. But what's more likely to happen short and longer term is that you're going to rack up additional debts on your account, such as administrative fees for dealing with the debt on the account, which you will ultimately end up having to pay regardless. And the companies are likely to issue demand letters, then pass it to a debt collection agency. Now, just to be clear, the debt collection agency are not bailiffs. They're not the same. They cannot just simply turn up and take your goods away. But if the company goes ahead and takes you to court, which they will invariably win the case if they prove that you've used the energy and haven't paid for it, there's almost certainly going to be no real defense against that, and saying that the price is very high is not going to be a defense, unless of course emergency legislation comes in to say that certain prices over a certain amount and so on and so forth, which in my view is just not likely to happen. So if the company takes you to court and gets a CCJ against you, a county court judgment, which is almost inevitably going to be the case, then not only do you have a CCJ against you, which is going to go on your credit record for many years, and it's going to scupper your chances of taking out loans, taking mortgages, or even taking out mobile phone contracts or new tenancy agreements and so on and so forth. Ultimately, you're going to have to pay the money back under the CCJ, and if you don't, and if you can't, and if you get too many debts rack up to a certain amount, then they pass the bankruptcy threshold, then one or more of the creditors to whom you owe these debts can apply to have you bankrupted, which is of course going to turn your life completely and utterly upside down. So whilst I can see the argument, as I said to somebody earlier today, I can see the argument as to why people want to do this, to make a stand against the energy companies, and if many thousands of people do this, then obviously it's going to have an effect on the energy companies. But ultimately, the line that I have to draw, and if someone were seeking my guidance, none of this can be relied upon as legal advice. Of course, you know that that can't be the case. I've said many times you can't rely on my videos as legal advice because I'm not sitting down with you looking at your instant scenario for you to ask questions, for me to explain things to you, and so on. However, the general guidance that I would give is, if you don't want your whole life to be turned upside down vis-a-vis credit reports and credit reference agencies, getting a CCJ, going to court, and all of the stress that that's going to bring, then I can only suggest that you don't cancel your direct debit. I do understand that there's going to be significant problems with paying the energy. There are going to be certain facilities around for you to get certain grants and so on, and you should take a look and see what you can do. One thing you can look at is solar energy. There can be certain grants and support for low-income households to try to get you solar energy put upon your house to help you to generate some power so that you're not so reliant on the grid. But I just thought I had to do some video on this subject because I've heard of so many people looking at this idea of cancelling your direct debit. And if you were to ask for my view, there it is, and those are the reasons for it. So in the meantime, I hope you like the video, subscribe if you enjoy my content, and as always, thank you very much for watching.